A dramatic start to the Spain versus Chile match off the field. Nearly 100 Chilean fans burst through a security checkpoint at the famed Maracanã Stadium in Rio. They sprinted their way through the media room, breaking down walls to find a way into the stadium. Journalists reported that security staff were slow to respond, taking about 15 minutes to contain them. 85 fans were detained. Nobody was injured. Now, Spain could have used some of that energy on the field as the team struggled to do much of anything against Chile. Chile scored twice in the first half, the first in the 20th minute and followed that up in the 43rd minute. Those would be the only goals scored in the game as Chile edged out Spain 2-0. The Spanish loss means they're now eliminated from the tournament with no chance to advance into the next round. CCTV's Joel Richards is live for us in Rio. And Joel, a huge disappointment for Spanish fans as the defending world champions heading home, having just scored one goal in their first two matches.
Evening, Elaine, from Rio, and we're just in front of the Maracanã where this game was played, and most of the fans have now left. But as you said, this really is a major disappointment and one of the biggest stories so far from this World Cup. The world champions, Spain. Remember, this is a side that's really dominated world football over the last 6 or 8 years even. They're the world champions, and in between either side of that World Cup win, they also won the European Championship. So that's 3 major titles in the space of just 6 years. A side that's really dominated world football, not only in terms of just the pure success and lifting the trophies, but also in terms of the quality. But as you said earlier, Elaine, really very poor performance from Vicente del Bosque's side, and the midfielder Xavi Alonso said that the team lacked conviction, ambition and hunger, and that is really the reason why they've gone home early. But a major disappointment and a real shock for everybody involved.
That was one of the most watched games. But one of the other big stories there in Brazil deals with one of the world's best known players, Portugal's Cristiano Ronaldo. He's been battling a left knee injury, and now there are reports that he's being advised not to play at all. What are you hearing?
That's right. Well, it appears there's been a conversation, according to reports at least, between the doctor and Cristiano Ronaldo. The doctor saying that if he were to play, it would be putting his career on threat. The rest of his career, still a young player with several years ahead of him. Ronaldo said, though, apparently, that it will be his decision whether he plays or not. Cristiano Ronaldo, along with Leo Messi, one of the greatest players right now in the world, and a player who's expected to help Portugal do well in this tournament. Portugal were semi-finalists in the European Championships just 2 years ago, and obviously with Cristiano Ronaldo, their lead player, were expected to do very well. They lost 4-0 in their first game, and really they rely, very importantly, on having Cristiano Ronaldo fit for the remaining 2 games if they are to qualify. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there, whether Ronaldo, the player himself, decides to play, and what risk that is on his career.
And Joel, technically it is autumn there in Brazil, but temperatures in some places around the country like Manaus and Salvador are soaring. They're topping 33 degrees Celsius or 91 degrees Fahrenheit. Listen to how a doctor describes the impact on the players.
The heat affects the athletes' performances. Europeans from the northern hemisphere are not used to playing in these temperatures, so they're going to suffer more. They need to undergo a process of acclimatization. An athlete expends a lot more energy when carrying out physical exertion in the heat.
So what's the sense there? Is the heat giving players from the Americas an advantage? I know that England had some words to say before the tournament started.
Well, nobody, Elaine, wanted to play in Manaus, Manaus in particular, but up north as well, where, as you mentioned, the temperatures really are much higher. In the England against Italy game, we saw players having to stop in the later stages of the match with cramps, so really feeling those effects. Right now, Croatia beating Cameroon 3-0, so perhaps they're not struggling quite so much. But there was a fear of playing in the north. No one really wanted to be there. And as you said, much further south here in Rio, it is slightly cooler. And there's a question whether this really affects European sides to the extent that no European nation has ever won on South American soil. So it remains to be seen quite how this pans out, and whether maybe Italy, Germany or France maybe challenge for the world title. But certainly the teams who have had to play further up north and in these very high temperatures have felt those effects.
All right, CCTV's Joel Richards reporting outside Maracanã Stadium in Rio de Janeiro.